Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're going to take you through an RV orientation on this 2020 KZ Connect 302 RIK. We'll start right here at the front of the trailer, where you've got your power front jack, simple operation for a retract and extend, and there's a light hitch light here on the front. The jack can be cranked manually if you ever need to by removing the rubber cap on the top and using your manual jack crank, which you'll find in your front storage compartment. The propane tanks, you can access the valves just by opening the hatch on the top and remove the cover to access the bottles themselves. These are dual 20-pound propane tanks. Both are full right now with an automatic switchover propane regulator. Right now you can see that the sight glass on this regulator is showing red. That indicates that there's no propane flowing from the supply bottle. As I open this valve, the sight glass goes from red to clear, showing that there's propane flowing. Anytime you open a propane bottle, we always recommend that you open it slowly and all the way so as not to trip the excess flow valve in the new style propane valves. What we recommend with this style of regulator is that you open the valve on both bottles, but have the supply bottle, supply arrow pointing at one bottle or the other. In this configuration, the regulator will completely deplete the first bottle before it switches over and starts to pull from the second bottle. When that happens, the sight glass will go from clear back to red, and you can switch the regulator over to the second bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Behind your propane tanks is your battery. It's a 12-volt deep cycle RV battery with two leads going to it, red to the positive terminal and black to the negative terminal. It's a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require some maintenance. We recommend a couple of times a year popping these two caps off to expose the 6 cells underneath and checking the fluid level. If the fluid level looks low, you can top it up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing the battery for winter storage. So take it off the RV, store it inside, preferably somewhere where it won't freeze. And if possible, once or twice over the off season, we recommend putting a trickle charge on the battery just to bring it back up to full charge. There's a battery disconnect switch here right behind the battery. So green is on, red is off. Important to note that the battery will not charge unless the battery disconnect is in the on position. So when you're plugged into power, default position should be on for your battery disconnect switch. Around the side of the trailer is where you'll find your pass-through storage compartment. Here is your 30 amp power cord stored inside here. Many of the RV sites that you camp at will have 30 amp power available. For those that don't, we also supply the 15 amp park adapter. Also inside here is where you'll find access to your water pump and winterized siphon line. There's 2 screws that need to be pulled out here to open up this access panel to display the water pump. This is also where you'll hook up to fresh water. You can hook up directly to city water if you're staying at a site that has city water hookups. If you're going to hook into city water, we recommend using a water pressure regulator, just a little brass piece that goes on the end of your hose to maintain proper operating pressure in the RV water system. Or you can fill your freshwater holding tank from here. This is just a gravity fill right into the holding tank. You'll want to use, for either of these, you'll want to use one of those white drinking water specific hoses so you don't get that plasticky garden hose taste in your water. Here is where that 30 amp power cord attaches to the trailer. And here is another water hose hookup. Don't confuse this one with that one. This is your black tank flush. So when you're dumping your black holding tank, you can hook a hose up to here, preferably a different hose than what you use for your fresh water, and that will flush out the inside of the tank. So it'll spray off the walls of the tank and the monitor probes to help keep your monitor panel reading properly. Outside shower is beneath that. Simple hot and cold taps inside there, and the shower extends to about that height. When you're dumping your holding tanks, your sewer hose will attach right here. We supply a new 20-foot medium heavy duty sewer hose. It's stored in the rear bumper right now. So attach the sewer hose here. Other side goes into the ground. And then you've got two valves, a larger black valve for your sewage and a smaller gray valve for your sink and shower water from your bathroom. Always a good idea to dump the black valve first, so dump the sewage first and then use the gray water to flush out that sewer hose. Also important to note, on this trailer there's a separate galley tank for the kitchen with a separate sewer dump. So you'll need to dump this set of tanks, then you'll need to move your sewer hose to the connection at the back and dump the galley tank when you're at the dump station. Here is your hot water tank. So it's a gas electric hot water tank. If you're going to operate this tank on electricity, when you're plugged into power, there's a little black rocker switch here in the bottom corner of the tank that'll need to be turned to the on position. We'll leave that in the off position for now. There's also two reset buttons here. There is the one on the left for electricity and the one on the right for propane. If the tank ever overheats, mainly because it was started up with no water in it, you'll have to come out and reset these before the tank can start up again. This is also where you'll pull the plug from the bottom of the tank to drain the water in the winter. So pull that plug out of there, and on the end of the plug is a rod about that long. It's your anode rod. It will corrode over time to preserve the inside lining of the tank. So this rod does need to be replaced every few years, but it can get quite corroded and pitted looking before it needs to be replaced. Typically, depending on the water quality, every 3 to 5 years you'll need to replace the anode. Before you pull that out, make sure to bleed the pressure off the tank because that tank's sitting under about 40 psi when it's fully pressured from the water system. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 65 psi. It's stamped right on the sidewall of the tire, 65 psi cold, and we do recommend that you run them right at 65 psi. Also, your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds, and we recommend periodic retorquing of your lug nuts with any towable RV. This one has easy lube axles, so if you pop this center cap off of the wheel here, it'll expose a grease zerk, and you can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. Now that does not eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, it only prolongs the intervals. So instead of repacking wheel bearings every year, maybe you'll repack wheel bearings every 2 or 3 years. This is the vent for your fridge. You can remove these panels to access the back of the fridge for maintenance or cleaning, but for the most part it's just a vent to allow some air circulation back there. And this is the vent for your furnace. Important to note that this gets very hot, so if you've got young kids around the trailer, make sure they know not to touch that. Right here at the back is that second sewer dump. This is for your galley tank for your kitchen. So you'll have to remember to dump both tanks when you're at the sewer dump. You have stabilizer jacks on all 4 corners. When you get the trailer to the campsite and parked relatively level, you want to crank those down to be snug with the ground, but not actually lift the trailer with them. They're not designed to take the full weight of the RV, just to take up some of the weight to help stabilize it inside. The cargo tray folds down by removing these two pins. Good for 250 pounds, including the weight of the tire. So about another 200 pounds on this tray. It's important to note with this spare tire that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench. So it's not a bad idea to just make sure that you have a wheel wrench with you that fits these lug nuts, just in case you do ever need to change a tire on the fly. Around the camping side of the RV, you'll find your outside kitchen. With the outside kitchen, you've got an electric fridge. You'll need to be plugged into power for this to work. It doesn't run on propane like your RV fridge does. And a Capito Grill stovetop here. This runs on propane, and you will need to connect the propane line for that. So there's a quick connect on the end of the hose that hooks up right here. So the quick connect will hook up right there, and the other end down here. When you hook up a propane quick connect, push the end in, the sleeve slides forward, and then you'll need to open the valve before any propane will flow. This one has 3 valves, so you'll need to open the valve at the trailer where it connects to the stove, and there's also a third valve inline on the hose itself with another quick connect. Also got a quick connect here for your water. High-rise faucet in here now, but it also has a coiled hose with a high-pressure sprayer. So just turn and remove to disconnect that and reconnect the other hose. That covers it for the outside kitchen. Your step is the 3-step solid step. So it just folds up right into the door frame like this. Put it down and just use the handle to release the step and fold down. These legs are height adjustable. If you're in a very unlevel site, you can adjust the height on the legs. Your awning covers both your door and your outside kitchen. Your awning is controlled right from your central control panel here. So you've got some switches here for interior lights, both your main ceiling lights and an entertainment light there at the back. The awning switch right here at the top. So just simple retract and extend. So if I press and hold the extend button, the awning comes out. That awning will extend a full 8 feet. We'll go ahead and extend it. A little bit of water in there right now just because we just finished the exterior wash. After you've extended the awning the full 8 feet, it is height adjustable. So both arms are height adjustable, but typically you would only adjust the height on one side so that you can control where the rainwater runs off with the awning. You do that just by pulling down on this arm. Before you retract the awning, you should put both arms back up to the full height. That'll ensure that the canvas rolls up evenly on the roller tube. So come on inside and I'll show you a few more things around the inside of the trailer. Finishing with the control panel, this is also where you control your slide outs. So if we press and hold the slide out button, the main slide will extend. This slide out is 2 feet deep and an above floor slide, so it just runs straight out, and when it's fully extended you'll hear a ratcheting sound. Just like so. The main, or the larger slide is a flush floor slide. So it kind of sinks down as it starts to move. And this one moves out 36 inches. When it reaches the end of its travel, it's going to sink down a little bit at the bottom to create a flush transition on the floor. Just like so. When you hear that ratcheting sound, you know that your slide is all the way extended. A couple more things here on the control panel. This is where you'll find the switch to activate your water pump, and you can hear that pump come on and pressurize the system. Your awning light is controlled from here, so that's a light that runs the entire length of the awning fabric. And this is where you'll turn on your hot water tank as well. So you can run your hot water tank on electricity if you're at a site that has power hookups, or you can run your tank on propane gas if you don't have power available. So when you turn that propane switch on, the red fault light lights up, showing that the tank is not running. But in just a second, we should hear the burner light up and that fault light will go out. There we go. And if that tank didn't go out, or if it went out only briefly and came back on, that's when you might need to go out and check those two black reset buttons on the outside of the hot water tank. You could also check then that you haven't run out of propane, because that's commonly when people realize that they're out of propane, when the water's cold. So I'll turn that off for now. This is also where you'll see your monitor panel. So you can check the level of your fresh tank, which is completely empty right now, your battery, which is good, black tank 1, which is completely empty. Black tank 2 still reads empty, but important to note that there is only one black tank on this trailer. So only black tank 1 will read accurately. Gray tanks, though, 1 and 2, correspond to your bathroom holding tank and your kitchen gray water holding tank. So in the kitchen, you've got your 3-burner Furrion stovetop here. So this is propane burners with a push-button electric ignition. So push and hold the knobs down to light the burners. Once you've lit the burner, hold that knob down for just a second for the flame sensor to heat up, and then you can set the temperature of the burners. Here at your fridge, it's a automatic gas electric fridge. So turn it on, and then usually what we recommend is setting the mode button to A for automatic. Automatic will always check for electricity first. If it has electricity, it'll run on that. But if it doesn't have electricity, it'll sense that and will automatically start up on propane. You can override the automatic to only run on electricity or only run on propane. There's not very often that you'd want to do that. One situation where you may want to do that is you may find that the fridge cools faster on propane than it does on electricity. Now, having said that, it still takes several hours to cool down an RV fridge, so we recommend getting the fridge cooling the day before so that it's nice and cold when you load your food into it. This one has some temperature adjustment, levels 1 through 5, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest, and I usually set it at 3 or 4 to start. We'll set that back in automatic mode for now, and to shut this off, press and hold the on button for 3 seconds. Where is your converter? Right here. So right here is your power converter. This is the power center for the entire RV. So you'll see all of your 110 volt circuits protected by breakers, and all of your 12 volt circuits by fuses. You've got mostly 15 amp fuses here with a couple of 40 amps, and we do recommend you have some spare fuses on hand just because it's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse. If you have some spare 15 and 40 amp fuses with you, you'll have them if you ever need to change one at the campground. It's also not uncommon for this to make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound. It's just the cooling system for the power converter when it's operating under heavy load. Right here is your propane leak detector. So this is actually a propane CO combination detector. So this will warn you if you have potentially a propane leak or a carbon monoxide situation, but it will also alert you to a low voltage situation on the RV battery. This is wired into the RV's electrical system, so if the RV battery gets very low, this will chirp just to alert you to a low voltage in the RV battery. Right above that is a smoke detector, and the smoke detector is not wired into the RV's electrical system. It has its own 9-volt battery. So you want to check this periodically, at least a couple of times a year, just to make sure that the battery hasn't gone dead. And you can press and hold the test button to test the smoke detector to make sure that battery is still working. Here's your thermostat. This controls the heating and cooling for the RV. For the cooling, you need to be plugged into power and for the air conditioner to kick on. But if you slide the system over to cool, then you've got 2 settings for the fan, always on or on automatically as per the thermostat. And then there's also high and low fan speed settings for the air conditioner. The furnace has only 1 fan speed, and if we turn the system over to heat and turn up the thermostat to the temperature we're comfortable at, the furnace fan kicks on right away, but it's going to take a few seconds for the actual burner to light up. We should be able to hear that when it happens. There you go. So now that burner is running, in a few seconds we would have warm air blowing from our floor vents. Once the temperature, or once the furnace comes up to temperature, or we shut off the system, the same thing happens, only backwards. The burner has gone out immediately, but the fan is going to continue to run for 30 seconds to a minute just to go through its cycle. Here in the bathroom, a couple of things to talk about. The power outlet in here is your GFI power outlet. So it's the same as the outlets in the bathroom in your home with a test and reset button. The only difference is in an RV, this is wired in series with the rest of your 110 volt power outlets as well. So if you're plugged into power, but you're finding you don't get any power from your outlets, come into the bathroom, press the reset button, and that'll reset the whole system. Whenever you're using your RV sewer system, you'll want to make sure to use a good strong toilet chemical in the black holding tank. So toilet chemical comes in powder, tablet, or liquid form. We sell all 3. And when you go to add chemical to the tank, open up a package of chemical, pour it into the bowl, push halfway down on the foot flush to fill the bowl with water, and then dump the whole works down into the holding tank. It's important to note that that chemical needs some water to activate it, so always put some water down with the new chemical. You'll want to put new chemical into the tank immediately following every time you dump your black holding tank. And here in the bedroom, not a lot to cover in here. And you have an emergency escape window. So this window can be pushed open and latched for just an open position, or else this window hinges all the way up for the emergency exit capability. Storage underneath the bed here for bedding or other items. And at the headboards, on both sides of the headboard, you've got 110 volt and 12 volt USB charging ports. Your secondary TV location is here. There's a backer in this wall. The backer is metal, so we recommend using a magnet to locate exactly where the backer is. The sticker will be close, but it's not necessarily in exactly the right spot, so use a magnet to find where the TV backer is. And I think for the most part that covers everything. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thank you very much.